One of the features of technology is that it tends to change the structure of costs and benefits surrounding different products and services. And our laws and policies typically have to adapt in response to those changes. The New York Times article that summarized the suit against Georgia State mentions that there are some legal precedents that relate, and they have to do with course packs and copying. It's difficult to imagine now, but there was a time when copy machines were fancy new technology. Instructors and teachers looked at them and thought, great, I don't have to work within the confines of a particular textbook or a set of textbooks. Instead, I can structure the class that I want to teach by taking excerpts of books and articles. So what they would do is that they would approach places like Kinko's, who would make copies of the content requested by instructors, and then sell the packs to students. Courts determined that this wasn't fair use. It's not non-profit because people like Kinko's or whoever else were making money off of the service. Often the content is an entire article or a significant excerpt from the book, and the use isn't transformative at all. The response was to create the Copyright Clearance Center, which manages the licensing and copyrights for this sort of thing. We can fast forward to today, where rather than printing out course packs, instructors will just take the readings and post them online for students in their class to access. Now, intuitively, this isn't anything different from the course packs, which courts have already ruled aren't necessarily fair use. So this raises the question, are there significant differences between digital media and print media such that we should treat the two cases differently? I mean, if we have a good case against fair use in a print course pack, why don't we have a good case against fair use in a digital reserve? I think that the gist of this week's readings is that there's something wrong or unfair about the suit against Georgia State. So I wanted to explain the publisher's perspective a little bit better. For them, much rides on the claim that there shouldn't be any difference between digital and print course packs or reserves. The content and function are the same, and so why should we handle one differently than the other? Digital technology removes many of the costs associated with the dissemination of ideas and information. So it used to be the case that information had to be created within a physical medium that itself had to be produced, and that was costly. When content is created digitally, those kinds of costs disappear or are greatly reduced. But digital technology doesn't touch the cost of producing ideas or expression in the sense that it's still costly in terms of time and energy and money to, say, write a song, edit it, record it, and importantly, market it. So, as an example, print runs are costly, but they're not nearly as costly as editors, designers, and PR people who are employed by publishing houses. Digital technology may make it cheaper to disseminate a book, and it may streamline many of the value-adding services that publishers provide, but it doesn't remove those costs. They still exist. And so that's why you see things like DRM on files and other frustrating aspects of digital media. It's not always the case that publishers are greedy. It's also that they're trying to recoup their costs and make a little bit of profit. So if that's the case, why are so many people in academia upset by the publisher's suit against Georgia State? Seems like the publishers have a really good case. Intuitively, there isn't much difference between an electronic course pack and a physical one, so why should the medium matter so much? I think the opposition to the case stems not so much from our inability to recognize that within the system we have, Georgia State's actions may be legal, but instead, it stems from the fact that academics are generally very frustrated by the structure of scholarly communication, and were very disturbed by the demands that publishers included as a redress. The problem with academic publishing is that most, if not all, of the value-adding services that other kinds of publishers provide aren't provided by academic publishers at all. Instead, academics are paid by universities to do them. Faculty are expected to be active scholars, which includes editing, peer reviewing, and producing content for publishers. We sign our copyrights away, we edit and review our peers' work, and the university, which is your tuition dollars, pays us to do this, and then it pays again to access the content. Before digital technology, we needed academic publishers because we needed them to physically print and disseminate our work. Today, I think many academics, myself included, are asking, why do we need academic publishers again? And I'm interested to hear what you think about this question. Weeks ago, when we discussed the economics of information, I asked you to think about the role of markets in disseminating information. I tend to think that the Georgia State case really highlights the awkwardness in thinking of what academics and teachers do in terms of a typical market. But this is built into our system of copyright law. One of the measures of fair use is effect on the market. So sometimes my students will say, well, it doesn't affect the market for a scholarly or academic work when an instructor puts that article or a book chapter up for their class. But the thing is, that's really the only kind of thing that those articles and books could be marketed as content for classes and fodder for more scholarly work. That really just kind of is the market for this sort of stuff. If faculty and instructors are able to use scholarly materials like that, just putting it up for their students, those materials will no longer really be marketable in any financial sense. One alternative is that we just disallow that kind of use and charge licensing fees to universities. This is obviously the solution that publishers would like to see implemented. But another alternative is just to bypass academic publishers. Faculty and instructors already do most of the work associated with academic publishing, and if we kept doing that and didn't release our copyright, it's not clear that there aren't ways for us to disseminate our work among ourselves and to our students. So in philosophy, one of the more highly ranked journals is called Philosopher's Imprint, and it has no affiliation with any publisher whatsoever. Everything is done by faculty members who don't really do anything different from what they did before, and they just did it for academic publishers, and all of the authors retain all of the copyright in their works. So can you think of good reasons for the rest of academia not to go this route? I'm kind of interested in what you think.